Hey YouTube, today I'm going to review Bad Batch Season 1, Episode 4, Cornered. And then I'm going to discuss a few questions, namely, who does Fennec Shand work for? What does Fennec Shand want with Omega? What does the episode contribute to the series? And is it a good episode? And what is Clone Force 99's mission? I'm Nate, this is my channel. If you like the content in today's video, make sure to hit the like button or leave a comment. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, be aware. Episode 4 was released on May 21st, 2021 on Disney+. In this episode, the Bad Batch needs fuel, rations, and to recode their ship's scan code, so they head to Pantora. Hunter takes Echo and Omega out on a supply run. Omega gets lured away by the sights, where she encounters the Bounty Hunter Fennec Shand, who's been hired to kidnap her. Hunter and Bad Batch must fight to find Omega, get her back, and escape. Again, the voice actors are D. Bradley Baker as the Bad Batch, and Michelle Ang as Omega. The episode is directed by Saul Ruiz, who also co-directed Episode 1. Ruiz is not new to Lucasfilm, as he has directed 12 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, 6 episodes of Star Wars Resistance, 4 episodes of Clone Wars, and now 2 episodes of Bad Batch. The episode is written by Christian Taylor, who won an Emmy writing for 6 Feet Under on HBO. He was also a writer and producer for ABC's Miracles, and a writer and producer for J.J. Abrams' Lost. And finally, he was the head writer for the Clone Wars, writing 15 episodes. As far as the plot elements are concerned, Bad Batch has a reason to go to the planet of Pantora, which is a supply run. Trouble finds them in a very Star Wars way, which is the Dockmaster letting the Bounty Hunter Fennec Shand know that they're there. And then they all work to solve the problem. And in this episode, much more than the previous episodes, all the characters seem to have a good amount of screen time and are all very active participants in the story moving forward. Tech is trying to fix the ship, and then when Hunter needs help to try and find Omega, Tech moves to hack into the security system so he can get the video footage. Hunter's trying to trade goods, and then he's trying to find Omega. Wrecker is helping Tech, but then when Hunter gets knocked out, Wrecker goes to chase down Omega and find her. Echo is sold to a trader to make some money, and then he finds some droids that are in the back room for the trader, and he uses those droids to help Tech fix the ship while Tech is hacking into the security system. So everything that's going on here is very well organized. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's moving around to get the plot moving forward. The episode belongs to Hunter. He's the one that makes the decision to go to Pantora for a supply run. He's making the decisions all along the way, including selling the items, but also making the decisions on how he's going to find Omega, and then what everybody's doing to help in that process. Omega is also making some decisions, but they're all bad decisions, and they're influenced by her naivety and also by pressure from Fennec Shand. And her bad decisions are causing roadblocks for Hunter, and is putting Hunter in a position where he's got 2 bad decisions to decide between at each plot point. So it's still his episode, he's the one making the decisions, but Omega is getting in his way in the process of him trying to find her, and Fennec Shand is supporting Omega, or she's pushing Omega to make those decisions. We're also finding more information about this new world that the Bad Batch is in, particularly with the Empire. We've got more advertisements for the chain codes, so we can see that the world is changing fast. We can see that the population of Pantora is excited about the Empire, the end of the war, and the Bad Batch is not that excited about it. We also see that Omega is still mimicking Hunter in certain ways, and particularly in the beginning when Hunter says Pantora it is in terms of where they're going to go, and then Omega says the same thing. Both of those dialogue lines mean different things. For Hunter, it's the best choice there. Pantora is the best choice. For Omega, she's excited about seeing a new world and doing some sightseeing. And that is one of the problems that it gets presented to Hunter throughout the episode. We also see Tech use his iPad quite a bit, and I think it's kind of funny that he's got an iPad where he gets all of his information from. He just dials something in. As far as the creative elements are concerned, Pantora is very reminiscent of Coruscant in the neon lights and the neon colors. We're also starting to get worlds that are fuller and more developed. More and more people are in the cities. They're doing more things in the background. So they're really taking time to develop the backdrop for what's going on in the foreground of the screen. And then when Omega, Hunter, and Echo are at the pawn shop, Omega finds a clone doll in a rubbish pile, and she pulls it out, and it harkens back to Rogue One, to Jin's Stormtrooper doll. But in this one, it's a clone trooper doll. And so we get the sense that the clone troopers have been thrown in the trash. Omega finds the clone trooper, and so that's very symbolic of, I think, what's going to happen in the future. And then while she's standing there waiting for Hunter, Echo notices that the doll's head is not on straight, and he fixes the doll's head. And I think there's a lot of symbolism in there in terms of what is going to happen with the clones in the future, and that the clone troopers are starting to be seen as trash or something to be thrown out at this point. The Dockmaster interaction when they first arrive on Pantora is very reminiscent of The Mandalorian, and the speeder bike chase in the final act harkens back to the Return of the Jedi as well as Attack of the Clones. For character development, like I said before, Hunter is the protagonist of this episode, and he gets developed a little bit. Most of the character development in this episode is in little tidbits. In this episode, we once again see Hunter with his heightened senses noticing that Omega is missing, but we also see him jump into action, and at one point we see him put his hand on Omega's shoulder and kind of guide her away from some danger. And this is really father-like, and it also shows that Hunter is starting to develop a love for Omega like a father would for a daughter. Omega also shows her naivety in this episode. She's in this new world, and she's starting to see more worlds that are different from the world that she grew up in. And she's starting to see that the world of the galaxy is not as black and white as she learned it to be on Kamino. We see Wrecker hit his head again. In the last few episodes, we've seen him hit his head. In episode 2, it was a light hit to his head. In episode 3, he banged his head against the chair when they crash landed on the moon. And originally I'd said that it was just a plot element to get him to stay on the ship so that he can make Omega's room. But now we're starting to see it on a routine basis, and I think it's leading to something. Particularly, I think it's leading towards his inhibitor chip either malfunctioning or starting up, and it's forcing the Bad Batch to actually use Tech's instrument that he's developing to scan for their inhibitor chips and to solve that problem of their own inhibitor chips before they move on to other problems. We see Tech with some serious skills fixing the ship and then hacking into the security system. And I think that in future episodes, we're going to see Tech actually take an episode and he's going to get developed quite a bit. Fennec Shand is introduced here in the timeline. She was introduced in The Mandalorian for the first time in the Star Wars universe in Season 1 and then again in Season 2. And in this episode, she's a lot creepier. She's very dangerous. She's deceptive. She's also very well trained and strong. In The Mandalorian, she gets shot in Season 1 in the stomach and taken out. But then in Season 2, we find out that Boba Fett has saved her and he's either fixed her up or done something to make her well again. And when she shows Din Djarin her stomach and that it's robotic, we get the sense that Boba Fett possibly fixed her robotically. And the original thought is that maybe he gave her some cybernetic parts. I think with this episode, it's very possible that she was already cybernetic. She had already had cybernetic parts because of her strength and also because she doesn't seem to age. So I think that she's probably mostly cybernetic, and that gives her a lot of her strength and that keeps her young and healthy throughout the timeline until she gets to the time of The Mandalorian. So overall, we're starting to develop a laundry list of allies and enemies for the Bad Batch, and the world is taking shape, and it's exciting and it's treacherous both at the same time. The themes that are explored in this episode, fatherhood is obviously the number one thing. We see that with both Hunter when he puts his hand on Omega's shoulder to kind of guide her away from some danger. And then we see it again with Wrecker. When Omega is running from Fennec Shand through the sewer system and she finds Wrecker, Wrecker picks her up, and then she kind of jumps into his arms and moves to hug him and kind of hide from Fennec Shand and hide within the protection that Wrecker has for her. And that's something that you see with like fathers and daughters. We also get a taste for what child abduction looks like. If we watch what Fennec Shand does as she observes Omega, follows her, and then at the right moment approaches Omega and lures her in to trust her, that's very textbook child abductor, and it's creepy to watch, but it's also eye-opening to see what lengths Fennec Shand will go to get the job done. Probably the major theme that we're seeing in this is good masculinity versus bad femininity. And we see this with the Bad Batch. They're using their masculine strength to save Omega, and Fennec Shand is using her feminine strength to deceive and kidnap Omega. I think we're going to see this play out in many different ways, and we're going to see more female characters come in to kind of surround Omega, to give her different options of what a good female is like, what a bad female is like, and what a kind of mediocre female is like. So we have Sue, who's very strong emotionally for her family, but she also knows how to shoot. And then we have Nayla C, who's kind of like the mother figure. Now we have Fennec Shand, who's providing a negative aspect of femininity for Omega. And I think this is going to lead to more female characters, but ultimately I think that Omega at some point is going to come across a toddler Leia, and that interaction is going to come out in terms of Omega doing something for toddler Leia and learning something about herself. And lastly, we're seeing more of the clone troopers being relegated to the rubbish pile. We've seen in the past few episodes Tarkin's attitude towards the clone troopers. Now we're starting to see the galaxy's attitude towards the clone troopers, that they're not really needed anymore. They might as well just go into a garbage bin. So now to the 4 questions that I've asked every week, which is, will Clone Force 99 fix their own inhibitor chips? Will they get back Crosshair and fix his inhibitor chip? Will they save their brothers? And will they reconcile the clones with the Jedi? So for the first question, will they fix their own inhibitor chips? We're seeing again that Wrecker hit his head. And I think in the next few episodes, very soon, we're probably going to start seeing Wrecker's inhibitor chip either malfunction or it's going to go off and he's going to go into death mode towards the Jedi or something. Will Bad Batch get Crosshair back and fix his inhibitor chip? We didn't see anything in this episode about it, but we can see from the first question that they are moving towards fixing their inhibitor chips, and the next step would be Crosshair. Will they save their brothers? I think we saw a lot of that in this episode, a lot of imagery that foreshadows that final step to move towards saving their brothers, in particular the doll, the clone trooper doll that Omega finds. And then when Omega loses it, when the dog creature takes the doll from her and it ends up on the ground, Hunter finds it and he picks it up. And I think that's very, very symbolic of what's going to happen in the future. And then finally, will the clones reconcile their relationship with the Jedi? There really wasn't a whole lot in this episode, but there was one thing that kind of came up, and that was the final chase scene between Omega, Hunter, and Fennec Shand. And it was very reminiscent of Attack of the Clones, where Anakin and Obi-Wan chased down Zam Wesell. And you can make the leap and the assumption that Hunter and Omega are mimicking Anakin and Obi-Wan, where Hunter is Obi-Wan and Omega is Anakin. I think that's a large leap, and I don't think that's the case here. I think that the imagery was just used to mimic that. I still don't think that Omega has Jedi powers. I think she's enhanced as a clone, but I think in order for them to reconcile their relationship with the Jedi, the clone relationship with the Jedi, Omega needs to be a true clone and not a Jedi clone. So we do have a few problems with this episode, and the main problem is that Fennec Shand in this episode is older than Boba Fett is at this time frame, but in The Mandalorian, Boba Fett is clearly older than Fennec Shand is. And I think that that's hashed out if we consider the fact or the idea that Fennec Shand is part robotic, that she has cybernetic parts and that she doesn't age as fast because of that. So now to the 4 questions that we were going to ask from the beginning. Who is Fennec Shand working for? The 2 options are the Kaminoans or Boba Fett. I don't think either one of those are the true option. And the reason why is in the last episode, Nayla C and Lama Su are discussing developing super troopers to try and keep their contract with the Empire going. But they need some clones. They don't say how many, but they need clones to come back so they can get the biodata from them, because Jango Fett's biodata is degrading. Originally I'd said that maybe there was possibly some other clones after Crosshair, so there's 9905 through 9909 or something. I think I was wrong there. I think the clones that they're referring to are Omega and Boba Fett. I think that we're developing multiple levels of evil here. We've got the Kaminoans, they want Omega back, they want Boba Fett back. I think we're going to end up seeing Boba Fett want Omega back, and I think the reason why he's going to want her is because he's going to discover that he has a sister, and he wants her to join him in his business of bounty hunting. I think the best answer here is that it's actually Darth Vader that has hired Fennec Shand, because we know from The Empire Strikes Back that Darth Vader hires shady characters and people that do shady things to accomplish their jobs. I don't think he's quite discovered Boba Fett yet, and I don't think Boba Fett has quite discovered Fennec Shand yet. I think the assumption in The Mandalorian Season 2 is that they might have known each other, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, they might have known each other before that time, but I don't think that's the case. I think that they met on Tatooine at that time. So that leads us to the next question. What does Fennec or her customer want with Omega? I think if it's Darth Vader that wants Omega, I think the reason why he wants her is because he's not comfortable with the new troopers, with the recruit troopers that Tarkin is bringing in. We know that him and Tarkin don't always get along, and I think that Darth Vader or Anakin is most used to working with the clone troopers, but he can't have them, and so he wants to develop his own, so he's seeking Omega in order to create his own clone troopers to surround himself with. So what does this episode contribute to the series, and is it a good episode? I think that it does contribute a lot to the series. We've got data on the clone troopers, and we have data on the galaxy's attitude towards clone troopers, that the clone troopers are pretty much rubbish, but somebody needs to save them, and we've got the imagery of Bad Batch picking clone troopers up out of those piles of rubbish. We've also got another bad guy who is trying to find Omega, and we're starting to develop a longer list of characters, both good, bad, and in the middle. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content in today's video, make sure to hit the like button or leave a comment. Have a good day.